Well, hey, good morning, students. Hey, for this Friday's devotion, I just want to focus on something a little different, and it's more of what's going on currently. I mean, I think you probably have to be under a rock and completely unplugged to not know what's happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd and just the I don't even have words to describe it, but very tragic, very haunting situation that's going on in there. And so I wondered, how does this become more than just a social issue? Because really, I believe it's a gospel issue at root, and we have a responsibility as Christians and brothers and sisters to lock arms with other people, no matter what color their skin might be. So we know that in Genesis 1, from the beginning, God created Adam and Eve, and we see this progression of humanity. Genesis 10 and 11 begin to see us get to where we can start to understand where we are today a little bit, because God scattered the nations into different tribes, tongues, and ethnicities, that would be scattered. And yet this scattering can be traced back to the days of Noah, and Noah and his sons can be traced back to Adam and Eve. And so we know that from the beginning, God had designed us to be a multicultural, multi-ethnic human race. And so part of us the questions that might come up then is like, well, then what race were Adam and Eve? And the answer is pretty simple. They were part of the human race. And we all can trace our lineage and our roots back to them. And they say, well, what color then was Adam and Eve's skin? I think this is where we begin to see where we need the gospel. Because the skin tone was not as important as the reality that every skin tone is found in the human race. And as humans, we have a responsibility to treat other humans as human and not less than that. And so there's a part of me that wells up in anger over what I've seen. There's a part of me that is heartbroken. But when I talked about this being a gospel issue, I wanted to read Psalm 82 and help us to trace how really this is really for all of us, because this is a racial reconciliation. Is not just an issue about one person's race and one person's responsibility. Racial reconciliation in light of the gospel is all of our responsibility, because we're all members of the human race. And so while we can't have a third person view of this anymore. I have to admit that at times I was skeptical years ago when this happened with in Ferguson, and you'd hear the Black Lives Matter, and I would kind of get a little uneasy about that, because I thought, well, yeah, all lives matter, and they do. But the reason why the thing that should haunt us is the reason we have a hashtag Black Lives Matter is because as a human race we have picked and chosen that some skin tones don't matter as much as others, whether they're African American, Black, Latino, whether that is Asian American, whatever it might be. We have determined that some don't matter as much as others, and the reality is we could trace them all back to the first family in Adam and Eve. And Psalm 82 says this: it says, God stands in the divine assembly. He pronounces judgment among the gods. And this is what he says. This is what God says. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Provide justice for the needy and the fatherless. Uphold the rights of the oppressed and the destitute. Rescue the poor and needy. Save them from the power of the wicked. This makes us more than just a social issue, more than just one race's issue. You and I can't be a third person and look at this like a movie playing out. We have to be active in that. And I don't know what that looks like for you. Sometimes I don't know what that looks like for me. But I do know the people that I know and love deeply, the people of color, the people that are part of our church, the people that are part of our student ministry, need us to listen. Need us to listen to them. And not just listen and let that be the end, but listen to the point where it moves us to lock arms, to march for change, to work for change. And not just change for change's sake, but change because every person is equal in light of the gospel. And because God doesn't make any difference, it doesn't make any he doesn't put people in different groups. He says here, provide justice for the needy and the fatherless, uphold the rights of the oppressed and the destitute. So in God's eyes, when one part of the human race is oppressed, it's the rest of the human race's responsibility to stand up for it. And so we have parts of the human race that are oppressed. And I sit here on my deck as part of my privileged life saying that. And it's up to me and it's up to others to take part in being part of the change. So I hope that this challenges you a little bit. It's challenging me. It hurts my heart. I want to see more and more people of all colors be a part of the kingdom. And I do believe it's wrong to say that, hey, I don't see your color. No, I do see your color. And I see your uniqueness, and you're part of what makes the human race special. You're part of what makes the human race indicative of God's thumbprint and God's design on all humanity. And so because God designed all humanity, the gospel is for all humanity. And if we believe in the truth of the gospel, we have to believe that if part of the human race is suffering from oppression and injustice, it is up to the rest of the members of the human race to stand up for that. So I pray that you would take that under consideration, that it would challenge you, and you pray to see what it might do, more than just a social media post, although that may be part of it. More than just saying, I see you and I hear you, although that is part of it. What does it look like to live a life of openness and diversity so that others might see Jesus, so that others might feel valued? And so that's the challenge for us as we enter this weekend, this last weekend in May. Hope you have a great Friday, and we'll see you on Monday.